Welcome everyone back to another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son, George. I was my mother's caregiver when she was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Unfortunately, she passed on 1/1/2020, but we started together for Sharon.com in her memory. Today's guest is somebody incredible, not just to me, but to the whole entire state of Florida. He's a gem. He's probably somebody who many of you may already be aware of, but I want to welcome Jay to the show. And I want to thank you for your time. You're somebody who actually breaks the mold, in my opinion, and who really makes time for, I won't say the little guy because I'm 6'2", but for the regular people out there who really need to bring things like Parkinson's disease awareness to the forefront throughout all the communities. And just so grateful again for your time.
George, thanks so much for having me on today. This is a really special cause, not just what you've done in the community, but your awareness. And I think that's the most important thing. Over the 22 years that I've spent here in South Florida, I've tried to dedicate a lot of my time to causes, to charities, and to giving back in the community. The dialogue, the understanding of information, and the processing of information with regard to all the diseases and with regard to the charities that are backing all these diseases to try and propel us forward is important, and it's instrumental. And so what you are doing, not just what you've done, but today, and keeping that dialogue going is so incredibly important. Again, thank you so much for having me on. It's really, honestly, it's a blessing to be able to talk to people like you and to really have a dialogue like this to get more people aware. And that's the awareness that we have. And the platforms like this really help generate that. So thank you very much. I'm blessed to be here.
No, thanks. And one thing that you actually bring up, which it sounded unique when I did it, it might not be, but I wanted to try to start a show and reach or have outreach for people who do not have Parkinson's and people who are not caregivers of individuals diagnosed with Parkinson's, because I feel unless we get all of the community, whether those affected or not, together in this, then we're going to be further from a cure. So that's why I've seen you over the years in such incredible work in the community, and so grateful for that. To have you here today just means the world. And as we'll get into a little later, I do hope somehow this spurs a conversation that doesn't just end today, that can continue and bring in others, because I've had some troubling responses or none at all from media outlets. Obviously, I don't name any, I don't blame them. Very busy, but I've been honored enough to interview United States Senator Rick Scott. I've had U.S. Representative Paul Tonko from New York. So there is incredible individuals out there shedding light on Parkinson, but I do feel we need all the big stations, all the newspapers, and anyone, especially April's Parkinson's Awareness Month, sent about three separate occasions, 15 letters, didn't really even get a response. But thankfully, my mother, she did pass due to the disease, but growing up taught me to never stop fighting for something you truly believe in. And just so you know, the reason I do this is because I don't want anyone to ever feel alone battling Parkinson's or their caregivers. I myself did feel alone, and my mother when we went through this. And I just feel if we reach even one person today, we'll change the world forever. So again, I'm so grateful for this talk and the future. And maybe you could start us off by telling a little bit about your incredible background, because you are a celebrity here in South Florida, no matter
Well,
what.
George, I appreciate that. I appreciate all the kind words you've expressed and given me, and really, what you just said, picking up on that. It's the dialogue, it's the communication, and it's the awareness that's out there. Every time I finished an MC event, I always said, it's not what we do tonight, it's what we do tomorrow, and going out and talking to people. And so I think change can happen one by one. And that one person that we reach out to today can make a difference, and it's just carrying on that dialogue. And for me, communication has been a part of my life since I was in high school. I was born and raised in New Orleans. We had a local little, kind of like a little set in my high school, and I started doing the morning announcements, and I thought, this is interesting, I kind of like this. And when I graduated in 1993, I was looking at colleges, and being from Louisiana and New Orleans, I was looking at LSU, but I also was looking out of state as well. So I checked out the University of Alabama. They had a fantastic broadcast journalism program at the time. So I entered in 93, went through the program, graduated in 97. Broadcast journalism is a lot like baseball players. You start off in the minors and you try and work your way up to the big leagues. You don't make a lot of money. You're working all the time, but it was perfect for me. I came out of college and I worked in Tuscaloosa for a year. I went to Savannah, Georgia. I was a weekend anchor at the CBS affiliate there, WTOC, for anyone who's listening. I was there from 99 to 2001. And then I sent my resume to Shannon Cake, my colleague and my former colleague and my co-anchor for a number of years. She went to Alabama too. I said, roll tide. I said, I'm looking for a job. And she took my resume and my resume tape over to the news director at the time in 2001. And I got hired. And I flew down here and couldn't believe South Florida was green in the middle of December because I was coming from Savannah. And 22 years later, I'm still here. And I now have a family, a beautiful wife. We've been married 13 years and two children, ages 12 and 10, which I can't believe. And they're starting school on Monday. So we're doing the orientation process right now. It's been a busy week for us, but it's good. They need the schedule. But, I've been blessed to be here in this community. I've climbed the ranks at Channel 5, my former employer, going, from just a baseline reporter, standing in dozens of hurricanes, almost 15 to 20 over the years, learning about each one, learning about this community and learning about the people. And, as I anchored more and as I had more shows throughout the years, I was able to give back in the community. And one of the things that I always told myself, and this wasn't really pushed on us, but it's something that I wanted to dedicate to myself, is giving back to the community. And that was emceeing events, being involved in charities. I've sat on 3 boards, everything from Easter Seals to Forgotten Soldiers Outreach, to Cancer Alliance, you name it. I tried to just put myself and my face in front of that. I also worked with local leaders, the Business Development Board, and Kelly Smallridge, who's a wonderful asset to our community. Some of the best and most powerful leaders in our town I've worked closely with over the years, and working with them and emceeing their events and doing stories about how West Palm Beach is growing and South Florida is growing really is the core of communication. And so I go back to what I said, it's just communicating. It's keeping everyone, the dialogue going. And now, as social media platforms are growing, that's created a huge base right now where I think more people are actually gaining more news, more insight, more knowledge from that, from podcasts and shows like this. So it's really been a wonderful journey. I've been very blessed, to go to a number of places. I was an avid diver. I did underwater Wednesdays early in my career where I actually talked underwater. I've been diving all over the Caribbean. I was one of the first reporters in Haiti in 2010 when the earthquake struck. I mentioned, I was on the front line of a number of hurricanes that have, damaged and destroyed our area. I went back home after Katrina to dig my parents out for a week after that storm leveled that whole area. That was probably one of the most personal stories for me. I flew with the Blue Angels in 2000. That was an incredible ride. I got a 46-minute journey, pulled AGs. But I think the journey has been meeting a lot of people, and those are the people in life like yourself who just make a difference, and people who you create friendships with, and you can make differences in people's lives. And if one person can hear this and react and maybe respond in a way that can help you and I out, then we've done our job. So I feel so blessed, and I'm honored here to be here with you today. I'm blessed to have had the support that I've gotten through the years. And I'm in a position right now where I think the sky's the limit for us and for what we can do here and for everybody. And that's the greatest thing about this, keeping this dialogue going. So that's my journey in about a 5-minute speech right there. There's a lot more to it, but it's been quite a ride for me as a journalist. I've got to see a lot, and we always say in journalism, you're on the front line where the public really can't go. And you remember those moments, you remember those visuals, and you remember those stories. I've been blessed to work with some incredible photographers who have helped me as a team win Emmys. I've got 4 Emmys. I've got an Edward R. Murrow and several AP awards, and those don't come easy. They're long processes. Those are hard stories sometimes to cover, but they're always a team effort, and you always go in with somebody. And I'm blessed to have worked with some of the best journalists and the best photographers in the country that have been down here. And I see those statues on the wall and know that that's an accomplishment of 2 people and a journey that we all took together. So, those are some of the memories that I have that will always be with me forever.
I want to thank you for that. Plus, I followed you along for many decades, at least through those
Thank you.
hurricanes.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
And cheering you on, and as a police officer, hoping you didn't get hurt or fly away, because some of those
Yeah.
situations are interesting. But some other major topics that you've touched on, and I again admire you for all your community work and how open and honest you are. You didn't have to respond to us. We somehow, I thought when we started the website, because we're not a foundation on purpose. I'm just one son who unfortunately lost his best friend due to Parkinson. We thought we'd have 3 or 4 people, but we've had over 40,000 people visit the site. So it's kind of, I don't know if it's because of our work or that unfortunately Parkinson's is one of the fastest growing neurological disorders in the world. with 1 million people in the US, 10 million worldwide. The only way I think we'll end it is to have these conversations. But one of the things I get, even if we didn't know each other before we started talking, is how incredible you are with family and community. And it's just a testament again that you responded, because I do try to reach out to individuals, and sometimes you'll either get nothing, crickets, or you
Yeah.
get, and when you do reach an individual like you, it means so much, not just to me, but really so many people out there struggling today. And just you bring hope. So I want to thank you for that, because knowing people like you are out there talking and fighting for everyone like us, it just means so much more than words can ever express. So thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate that, George, and all your kind words. And honestly, it's a privilege and a blessing to be with you. And I think I admire what you're doing. And I never want to overlook the fact that, those numbers that you just said about your growth, that's validation of the communication and the output that you put in this community. And be proud of that. You took a journey and your mom's story, and you've taken it and you are taking it each and every day to people in this community. And I think it's so important. I think we've talked, and one of the reasons why I wanted to come on, because we're all attached to either diseases, or we're all attached to a connection with someone who we know who is afflicted by a certain disease. My mom has multiple sclerosis. She was diagnosed early in 2000s. She's doing well today. That particular disease kind of weakens you over the years, but my mom has maintained an incredible amount of strength. She just crossed 80 years old this year. She's doing well, but that's not the only bout. She had early stages of breast cancer. She fought that and rang that bell as well. And she's dealing with some macular degeneration right now. But I think it's so important for us to put these issues in the forefront. And whatever causes, whether it's a family member or a friend that it's so important to have awareness, and it's so important to provide that foundation for people and the information so we can talk about this. And like you said, hopefully find the research. All the charity events that I used to do, I know one in particular, juvenile diabetes, we always were working toward research, finding a cure and fund a cure. And with Parkinson's, there are so many people that are afflicted by this, and your journey with your mom and the message that you are creating each and every day is so powerful. So never forget that. And that's going to continue to grow, especially on platforms like this, and the dialogue that you have. And we'll get into more on, how we can break into the mold of the media and getting more exposure to this, so more people are aware of this conversation and what we can do. But I commend you, and I think what you're doing is really, really powerful. And it's great that a son is taking on a cause, for his mom on her behalf, and is dedicating, his day in his life to this. And I think you should be commended for that. And that's one of the reasons why I was encouraged and I wanted to come on, and I was excited to come on, and I want to help propel this energy for you as well to continue, because I think it's so important, just the message and what you're doing.
Thanks. And today I want to dedicate it for, and should not pass, obviously, but in your family's memory and your mother. I also started, I have 2 years ago, we realized it's not just about me and my mother, it's about everyone, and how we're a family in this, whether it's Parkinson's or other afflictions and areas and diseases. So, on a side note, afterwards, if you ever wanted to share your mother's journey too, I do cover other areas, because I want a cure for everything. So ALS, I want for dementia, for Alzheimer's, for everything. So we definitely have to also keep helping, and she'll be in our thoughts too. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. My grandmother passed away from Alzheimer's as well. So
Yeah.
that's another connection that I have from that. So I worked with the Alzheimer's Association here, emceed some of their events. I've done a number of stories. Each one of us is connected somehow. And if we aren't connected directly, we either know someone that has. So this is a journey that we all take. And I think we can get stronger by communicating more and learning more about what drugs are out there and what medicine is out there to, again, find a cure, because that's the goal right now.
Sounds like someday we'll be having a show together. Because we're
I
gonna
hope so. I'd
have to
love that.
cover, each show will cover a different, I mean, I wish they didn't have any diseases, but
I
maybe.
agree. I know.
So now
But
I just want to take a moment for everyone and share some of your incredible social media and how you can also be reached. And then I want to get a little bit more about some of the other areas, a little uplifting, like your hobbies, and something that's important, in my opinion, is mental health. But before we get
yeah.
to that, maybe you can just talk us through some of your ways to reach you, or I don't want you to get flooded with emails like I do to you all the time, but
No, that's fine. I'm so happy. The connection to the community is so important. my social media accounts, or I try and keep active. The one we're looking at right now is just my Instagram account, and that's probably my most active one that I keep. Very family oriented. We had an amazing summer. My wife and I ended up in Puerto Rico for a little bit. The kids went to summer camp. They went to their grandparents' house. And then we spent some time over in the Bahamas at Atlantis and Baha Mar. My daughter Ella has wanted to go on that shark slide, the iconic one at Atlantis, the drop, and she wasn't meeting the height requirements. So finally this year she met it, and she's like, "We got to go." So I'm like, "All right," so we're going. So I just try and keep these posts that I have just kind of open and fun with the family, very family oriented, and that's kind of my journey there. I've got my LinkedIn page. Anyone can reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. That kind of takes you through a little brief history of my time from college all the way to here. And at the bottom, you can see my Instagram and my Facebook as well. I'm also active on Facebook, and my handle at Cashmere TV. You can reach me there. So there's a number of platforms that I have. If you just type my name in there, you'll find me on Instagram or on Facebook. I know Threads I'm on as well. And if somebody has more of a business oriented conversation that they want to have, I'm very active on LinkedIn as well.
I've noticed this, and just because I liked an action shot of you at work, but it's funny because Heather was our wedding planner, so I was like, "This is perfect." And tell her I said hi if you speak to her.
Well, she was our wedding planner too, and at the
But,
time, this is circa, I think, 2008, maybe 2009. I look way younger there. You can't see the gray hair that's coming. That was a funny set. We had this was on Fox 29. We had a little show that Shannon Cake and I were able to do, and we just brought people on, and we had like a 15 to 20-minute conversation. So we ended up doing sort of a wedding planning because I was getting married at the time with my wife. And so I brought her on to talk about just planning and everything we're going through right now. So Heather's great. She's fantastic. And Sarah Kaus there. She's actually in town this weekend. She'll be shooting over at Square Group, and she's our wedding photographer. So two amazing women there. They're just great, very powerful in the community, and I love their work. They're great. So this takes me back. That's a good memory right there.
I did a little research.
Yeah, that's right.
That's where the PhD and law degree come in handy once
I
in a
love it. I love it.
So maybe we could, before we get to some of the more interesting, fun topics, maybe you could talk a little bit. I think you mentioned some of your hobbies, but an area that's important also is mental health. Obviously, in the last decade in the United States, has become a major federal issue, not just local. Being in law enforcement, there's been a lot of issues, but even mental health has become a big one, and how to respond to people. Actually, I'm finishing my second book now on Parkinson's disease and policing, which is another topic for another day, but we need more awareness in the field because, as you might know, everybody listening, Parkinson's is a movement disorder. Well, if an individual happens to be driving, well, what time, it doesn't matter, maybe 10 o'clock at night, dark out, officer approaches them in a vehicle and they're not aware of Parkinson's, it might not end how it should end, quietly and peacefully. So obviously it'll be pro police book, not against, but you know how that's going in the country.
Right.
These, but I wanted, maybe you could touch a little bit on the importance of mental health for you, because you also have to take a little time. You're very busy with family, but what do you do, even as a caregiver, because you are also for your mother?
Yeah, it's such an important topic, George, and I'm glad we're touching on this. And I really think every person should put mental health. If it's not in the top three, it needs to be somewhere up there. And what I mean by that is taking time for yourself every day, and that's what I've tried to do. My wife and I try to it's time management. We are all busy. I have two children. My wife travels for her work, so everybody has their jobs, and you have other stresses that come in life, and God brings other stresses into our lives, and we're dealing with family members and caregivers, and each one of us has to find that strength each and every day. But I think what's important is to find time for yourself. And what I mean by that is, if it's 30 minutes or it's an hour, I usually take an hour. I work out an Orange Theory every day. My wife and I do that. And the relief of exercising every day, it's just me, and it's the core workout of Orange Theory. And this isn't a plug for Orange Theory, although I absolutely love Orange Theory. But whatever you do, if it's F45, if it's CrossFit, or if it's just walking, or if it's yoga, or sitting in silence for 30 minutes, or just taking time for yourself to find some peace in your day, I think that can help us sort of handle the stresses that come in our life, because sometimes you just have to kind of take a step back and process everything. And I know for me, just exercising and doing Orange Theory is sort of a stress relief for me. The phone is gone. I don't have it. It's an hour of my day where I have no distractions. It's just me and working on physical activity. And the core of Orange Theory is to get your heart rate into the orange zone for that session. And it's based upon three foundations of floor exercises, of treadmill work, and of rowing. And so for me, the aspect of that, those three journeys in a day, and the coaches are so phenomenal. My wife and I belong to Orange Theory in Gardens East and Gardens West. But it's not just about Orange Theory. It's just about taking time to better yourself. And it's not just the physical nature of this, it's the emotional and mental state, because you're going to feel better about yourself and you're going to be more positive after that. If you take a break in the day or go walk for 30 minutes or do yoga, you feel better. And after you come out of that, it's going to create a more positive mindset for you. And you're going to be able to process and handle those stresses that you have in your life much better. And I just think, whatever levels we are on in our day and in our life, and wherever we're at, where those stresses come in, I think taking time to make sure that you are taken care of, because we're always looking at everywhere else, but you got to take time for yourself. I think it's so important, and it's so easy to do. There's so many apps out there, and again, whatever works for you, that's what you need to do. I mean, sometimes I'll unplug and put my phone down and just go sit outside and listen to the birds or listen to nature sometimes. And I just need that for 10 minutes, and then it's okay. Then you feel better. You're creating a positive energy in yourself, and that will carry on through the day. And I just think if you can consistently work on that every day, it's helped me in my journey, and my wife too as well. And I know for people who have either diseases or they're impacted by some negatives in their life, processing that, are figuring out a way to sort of make their life positive, figuring out that journey in their day where they can carve out some time, helps them handle those negatives in their life, if you will, or helps them handle those stresses in their life much better. And I think it's so important.
Yeah, I agree, especially caregivers, gives
Yeah.
people mental break, and also those diagnosed with Parkinson's, they say 35 to 40 minutes a day exercise can slow the progression of the disease, which is very important. That's
Yeah, the
actually,
stats on caregivers is huge too, George, what you just said, because, and this firsthand as well. I mean, I think, my wife works in the pharmaceutical industry as well. And so she sees these stats a lot, and caregivers are really, really prone to the breakdowns. And that's something that's very, very important, because their stress levels and what they're dealing with is so high. And you don't focus on that, because the focus is on the person who they're caring for, but it's the caregiver that also needs some help too as well. And that's why I think the attention to detail here, that's so important and critical, what you just said there, because I see it firsthand. My dad helps my mom as well. He's there every day, and I'm always checking on him and everything. And I think it's important to check on our caregivers as well, because they need that mental state of mind. They need that physical positivity in their life as well, because obviously they're helping and propping up and moving forward each and every day to help someone else in their journey. So as you well know.
here's the magic question, of probably one of the most important today, and you break the mold, so it doesn't apply to you, but how do you think we can gain or kind of break through more Parkinson's awareness throughout the news and the media today? Because obviously I won't give up, but I'm having trouble figuring the right way to do it. I was brought up, again, not understanding what no is, but being respectful, professional, but this is such a thing that urgent to me that I think my mother would still be here if we had obviously more like a cure. I don't accept money for any of this. I always tell people, don't send me $1 because I have to send it back, which costs me another dollar. And
Right.
any donations on our site are not for us. We don't accept money. They actually go to organizations directly, like the Michael J. Fox Foundation, which was pretty
Yeah.
incredible. They created a link in my mother's memory, but it goes to them. So it's also nice because I don't have to deal with all the taxes and all that. So I don't accept money. We don't want it. We just do this again. So we don't want anyone to go through this anymore. But I'm just curious, there's not much out there. You brought up something earlier. I was shocked to find out that I didn't want to write a book. I didn't know it needed, but I needed my mother's journey to be out there. I didn't want her to be forgotten due to the disease, but there isn't another son in the world that has a book out, literally in the world, which I always say, please write me if I'm wrong, but not that I could find, that lost their mother due to Parkinson's. But I also noticed there's no, documentaries, there's no movies, there's rarely, even in our community, is really affected tremendously with the elderly population and Parkinson's in Palm Beach County that I don't really see much except maybe once in a while. It's very kind of upsetting, but in a way it drives me to want to break that mold. So maybe, and I don't want to put you on the spot because
No,
you actually don't fit in with what I'm saying because responded to the call. I almost feel like we're in one of those Game of Thrones TV shows where you're calling for your people and they're just not coming. So
George, I was on live TV for 25 years. There's nothing you can say to me that I either haven't heard or that's going to catch me off guard. You weave your way through. But I do think it's an important topic. I think it's finding the right people. I think it's, I have a good friend at the Palm Beach Post, and I think our dialogue after this that will continue. And it's finding the medical reporter or finding a way to make that story personal and finding somebody who has Parkinson's, who is alive right now and dealing with that, and creating that with you and connecting those two together to create a story. And that's what I would have done in TV. And I think it's trying to maybe build a story together with you and other people and talking about this journey and then finding the right outlet to do it. I think the media outlets are strong. I think that they would cover this. It's finding the right person, the right reporter, and it's also the story. Every time we created a story, we had a morning editorial meeting. It's what's the viewer benefit. And in media consulting now, I tell everyone, if you're talking or if you're on TV, what is the viewer benefit? What do you want people to take away from this? And I think if we can answer that question for you, and then we can link up with someone who is fighting Parkinson's right now, and then talking about the stats behind it. Stats are always good information to help build support for what we're doing. And in Palm Beach County, you can break those stats down just here locally to see the volume. And that would create more awareness. And I think it's just reaching out to the right people inside the TV stations, meaning finding the medical reporters, finding the storytellers who would take this journey, who are not on a daily beat or something like that, and creating the news of the day, which obviously is important as well. But there are shows out there, and there are podcasts out there, and there are journalists out there that are dedicated to just telling stories like this. And it's just finding that. But don't ever give up, because what you're doing here is strong. And it's just I've been told no a lot in my life, and the last year I've been told no a lot. But you keep going, because eventually you're going to get to that point where there's going to be a yes, and there'll be a journey there, and then that will carry, and that will be propulsion for you to keep going. I love the stats you just had with 60,000 people. I mean, it's just, that's something that you're going to build on. So I think it's just finding the right people, and it's also creating that story. So this isn't just for you and your journey. It's for everybody. What is the viewer benefit? What is your story? And what do you want people to get out of this? And I think if you can answer that, then your pitch becomes a lot more stronger to the reporter and to those TV stations. And certainly I would love to work with you on that. And we can find some outlets, some contacts that I have as well, that I can help push this just because of my relationship with people here down here, and my relationship with people across the state as well.
I appreciate it. We might have to employ you, except we make nothing. So that'll be
Hey, I'm willing to fight for your cause, my friend. It's all good.
I always say, I'll have to get you a copy of the book, but there are tough topics in there. But the main message, in my opinion, is that out of the darkness is a lot of light and positive things, and there is hope for others. And my mother might not be with us, but she still lives on through everybody else out there, and even us. Now her journey. So it's not really just a sad story. There's a lot of happiness at the end, and I wouldn't have met so many incredible people today, diagnosed, still battling, caregivers, advocates, there's so many incredible people. It's 99.9, just fascinating and inspiring. And there's nights, I don't know if I told you, but I had a few surgeries this summer. So we were planning to have a nice Bahamas one like your family, but ended up in a lot of hospitals. But as I was finishing waking up from the bed in the hospital, I'm like, you know what? I don't care about my issues or pain. We're going to keep posting for Parkinson's awareness. So I didn't stop a beat for a moment the whole summer, and even for the last 4 years, because that's how much I just, again, want to care for this. And again, I'm so grateful for your friendship and time and this
Well,
discussion.
I appreciate that, George. You're that's a testament to your strength as well. And I love what you said there about, it's not just a dark journey, the story. There's positive and there's a lot of light. And I think a lot of people can get a lot out of that, because a lot of people are in the same situation as you. And perhaps they're going to learn something from that it's not all negative. There is positives, and you can provide that. And I think that's the key. And it's the light that you're shining on this. And you're going to get that Bahamas vacation. Don't worry, because you're working very hard and you're going to get it, and it's going to come. But I think more so, you're going to make a difference in people's lives. And someone today and someone tomorrow will be impacted by what you're saying, and they're going to reach out. And I think that's the goal here. And keep doing what you're doing, because it's you're never ever not reaching people. You're always reaching people, and people hear you, and they're going to be touched by it. And I think that's the journey there that you have and that you can create for people, is that, I went through this, and there is a positive in this. There are some things you need to know. And that's what interests me. And that's what I want to know. It'd be interesting to hear that. So yeah, I would love to hear more about that. And I think finding those avenues, digging deeper into your journey and figuring out for people out there, if they're in the same situation, find your journey and what are some of the things in that journey that you can give back to other people that might help them that they don't know. Because that's the reality of this. It's you're giving people new information and information that will be helpful and beneficial. Again, it's the viewer benefit. What can they take away from this?
In 2024, it's odd that I even have this, but sometimes it's hard to explain that we don't want anything in return. It's almost
Yeah.
like we don't want donations to us. We don't mind them going to Parkinson's Foundation or American Parkinson's Disease Association, but it's almost an ongoing battle sometimes for me, because like even today, we want awareness, but it's interesting that there are people who just for some reason think you need something in return, but obviously, we don't. But that's the one interesting. I'll be writing a book on that in the future because
Yeah.
we only want to cure, we only want awareness, and I love working with other individuals, because I feel, as we'll get to, that together our voices are just so much stronger.
Yeah, and don't bury that lead, as we always used to say. If you're not here for money, you're here for a message, and take that to the headline right there, and let people know that.
Even the book, any sales have been donated 100% to different
That's fantastic.
organizations. We
That's
want
fantastic.
the drive toward a cure, power over Parkinson's. There's a few, there's so many of them, but there are a few that I kind of work closely with. But it's hard to, keep saying that. I don't want to talk
Yeah.
about that part. But so maybe we could get a little bit more as we wrap up soon. Can you list 3 words that describe who you are?
Wow, that's good. I feel like I'm outgoing, energetic. I don't sit still, and compassionate. I feel like, I think in this day and age, I think you have to have a sense of compassion. And when we look at the world we're in, I mean, my gosh, there's a lot out there, and I think as we each move forward, if we can take a step back in our life and just be more compassionate, that's something that I mean, I'm not perfect by any means at that, but I'm just trying to instill that more in myself, and listening. I think we can all listen more. I dealt with a lot of managers over the years, and the best leaders, and I've read books about this. The best leaders are the ones that listen. And I think, to be an effective leader, you need to listen, and that's the first key. That you can look at somebody who, all the key leaders, the people who have risen to the top, those are the ones that listen and create that team aspect. I think that's very important. Those are some of the glazing over the surface of some of the things that are important with me. But yeah, I don't sit still. I got to do something. I'm not like a gamer, and I wish I could be like that. But when I sit down and I'm just at myself by myself, I have to do something, which is why I think a lot of people are driven like I am. They're kind of wired and they kind of go. That's why mental health comes into play. You have to force yourself to stop, and you have to force yourself to just sit back and relax, or find that avenue to go to. And maybe that's why I like Orange Theory, because I'm physically active and I'm not sitting still. But sitting still is just as important, and it's great for mental health.
And this one will be tough because there's probably many, but is there one moment or one most memorable moment that stands out through most of your work with all different awareness that you could share? Besides, I think
You're,
I like the Emmy ones. We should have brought one on the show today.
yeah, you know, uh, are you speaking specifically of charities that I worked with, or just
It's,
stories in general?
I'd say either or both. I mean, obviously I don't want to keep you all night like we've agreed
No,
to,
that's fine.
but
I mean, stories, it's hard to put stories on. They all come with a unique set of circumstances, and they all are so powerful. Some of the ones that stand out, and this ranges across the spectrum here. Flying with the Blue Angels was certainly a story I'll never forget. Digging my parents out from Katrina, that was one I will never forget. Hurricane Francis, no, I'm sorry, Hurricane Jeanne. I was on the banks of Lake Okeechobee reporting, and I remember a canoe flew by behind me, like it was just in the air. It was like flying behind me, a canoe, like a full canoe. I'll never forget that image. I'll never forget that story. Another hurricane it, that I remember it coming through the backside of Lake Okeechobee, and I remember we were in the eye wall, and everything was, the front side wasn't bad. The eye wall came through, it was stabilized, and then the backside was just awful. And you remember those moments when you're in reporting, and then you take shelter, and those are the kind of stories that I'll never forget. My photographer and I went down several years ago to preview two Olympic divers. They were training to go to Indianapolis, hopefully to go to the Olympics, and we did a feature on them, and they were just incredible girls. They were just unique, and I was working with an incredible photojournalist, and we just kind of connected on that story, and it ended up winning an Emmy, and it ended up winning an Edward R. Murrow. And it was just it was a powerful journey that we took, and we dug deep with them, and just the effort and what they had to do. And my photographer was up on the high boards with them and everything, and the visuals. Those are just some of the stories that stand out. I know it's not one, two, or three. I don't know how many you asked, but it's just each one comes with something that you'll never forget. And all the way down to just meeting people and some of the tough stories, the cancer survivors, the people that, and some of the ones that we lose, you do stories on so many people afflicted with disease, and, you do the story on their strength, and when they pass, you have to fight for them, and you have to fight for their cause. Brian Wolnovitz, he was a local Guards firefighter. I was very close with him. He battled cancer. We had a number of stories with him, and then he finally passed. And I remember at his funeral, it was really hard. I mean, it was hard to do that because I was so connected professionally to the story. He was my best friend, and then we lost him. And it was a journey that I took, and I'll never forget that journey as well. And it's cancer, and then so we're fighting for cancer, and I work with some of his captains, really. Very closely right now, and their sons are best friends with my son. So you're still connected to everybody, that organization and that family, and those are the stories that always will resonate with me. I think sometimes you see journalists, you go to a story, you write it, and you go home. We deal with it too. You take that home with you, and those journeys and all those stories that you cover are all a mental snapshot that you have in your head. So and that's where I kind of turn the corner when I'm with my family. I try not to, I put work aside, and then it's about creating memories for my family. So when we go on the trips, it's all about creating memories. And I think that's the journey we can all take. It's when it's personal, create those memories that are powerful for you or for your loved ones or for whoever is in your family, and then professionally speaking, you're going to go through that snapshot. You're going to go through those memories as well. But it's a different aspect when you're at work and then when you're at home. So you can kind of carve out two different journeys there, and that's what I tried to do. Sometimes I had to leave work at work because it's one of those things that will always be with me. But that's what brings us back every day. It's storytelling. It's something that kept me in and continues to this day because you have a love for what you do and you love storytelling. And to the doctors and nurses and everybody out there, first responders and all that. I mean, they look at death in the eyes every day, and it's hard for them, but they do it because they love it. And so, whatever passion and journey that you're on, no matter the negative that comes from you, you can process it. But then at home, you can create a different positive momentum with you and your loved ones. And that's kind of where I kind of have tried to guide my life and my family's life here as we, as part of being a journalist each and every day.
I appreciate it. Just a couple last minute areas. If you were asked to write a script to a movie about your life story, what would you call it?
Oh my gosh. A script about my life. This could be the craziness of Cashmere or conversations with Cashmere. It could be yeah, that's an interesting one. I might have to think about that one a little bit. I mean, because I've had some fun adventures. I mean, it's been an adventure with Cashmere. I don't know. I guess that would be it. But I've got some fun stories to tell. But it's a lot of stories with friends and with people and teammates and all that. So that would be my script. Is just how blessed I am to know certain people in my life and the people that have come into my life that have helped create those stories.
Thanks. And if you could leave the Parkinson's community today with some words of encouragement, what would they be?
I would just say stay strong, stay focused, and stay connected to dialogue. What you are doing is so strong. And I think find the story, find people who are impacted by this and share their stories. Find out information that people don't know. It's great talking to you because I'm more connected right now in the 30-minute discussion than I was an hour ago. I know a little more about Parkinson's, just your journey. And I think that's important for everyone out there and anyone with Parkinson's or anyone who's a caregiver of someone with Parkinson's. It's knowing as much information as you can, because maybe something small that you didn't know could help you in your next day and in the day after that, and propelling you forward. But I think bringing it full circle is just talking and keeping the dialogue going, because everyone can learn something from each person, and speaking out about it, creating this dialogue and keeping it going each and every day. That's very important. And the mental health. I mean, I want to leave everybody with, if you're feeling depressed or you're feeling like you're not making headway, take time for yourself and just do that. Take a few minutes a day just to think about yourself and your strength and what you're doing, and create a positive environment around you and your mind. And that can always help you. That will help you in the next hour of your day, and in the next hour, and then the next day. And that's sometimes what I do when you're just overwhelmed. Just stop and process everything and think about the blessings that you have in your life.
I appreciate it. And I have a little message for you and everyone listening. We love you. We support you. We care a lot about you, and you're never alone. I, along with Jay, will advocate for you, and together our voices are so much stronger. I always end with just getting started, because obviously I'm not, but just meeting you and interacting with you over the last few months, and hopefully the future really changes my life for the better, gives me the drive and motivation to really want to impact more individuals like you do on a daily basis and over your career. But I noticed that, and you'll probably agree, that with any disease, unfortunately, it's not just the person diagnosed or their family, but it affects the community. And then that affects the state, the city, the federal, the government, I mean, it's incredible how many people this disease and many affect. But I think together we are really making an impact. And I'm so grateful again for your time and friendship, and excited in a way for the future. And hopefully we can do a lot more to bring awareness to Parkinson's disease. So just want to thank you again.
George, thanks so much for the kind words. I think you are just getting started, and I think your dialogue is going to carry volumes and a long way. And I appreciate you taking the time to invite me on your show to talk about this. I think the dialogue and what we can create together and what you can create with your audience and your listeners and everyone out there is huge. There's a lot to be said for what you're doing, as I mentioned, and I'm blessed and honored to be your friend and be a part of this program and be a part of the journey that you're taking to help you in any way possible. I really, truly appreciate your time today.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for listening. This has been another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son, George. Please reach out to Jay. He's the most friendly guy I know. We've shared his social media. I'll also add that to the link. But again, this conversation, I feel strongly, can't end today. We have to keep sharing this, support Jay and all his work, and also with his mom and her battle. And we have to all do this as a family, because I think as a family, together we can end this disease, and many of them, and support those who do feel, sadly, many times that they're alone. But we'll make sure you know you're never alone. So thank you, everyone, and until we meet again, which will be very soon, because we've been getting so many incredible guests. But Jay, you're at the top, so thanks again.
George, thank you. Thanks, everybody.